You're watching PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hopefully everybody is staying warm, and we're talking about the bitter cold temperatures. It's going to be even colder this weekend. Mayor Mamdani addressing a lot of the cold weather related issues, and we have 17 people who have died as a result of this cold weather snap. So he's going to be answering some pretty tough questions about what he's doing, especially ahead of this weekend, which we're being told by our meteorologist is going to be the coldest air that we've experienced this winter, and it's already been cold, right? On top of that, Jersey City, if you've been following the news there, Mayor James Solomon just came out with his budget, talking about a $250 million budget shortfall. Now, that's not nowhere near the $12 billion that Mayor Mamdani is saying that he is in, but these are different cities with different budgets, right? So $250 million is a lot of money for a city like Jersey City to have a budget deficit. He's blaming his predecessor. Sounds familiar, right? So he's blaming Stephen Fulop, who we spoke to last week, and he said, well, look, it's very typical of mayors to blame their predecessors. I'm not surprised that he's going to be doing this. James Solomon will be my guest on PIX on Politics tomorrow to talk about what he's doing. We know Mayor Zoran Mamdani is looking at these chief savings officers and what to do about how to kind of close some of that deficit and what it means. So what is Mayor Solomon doing? We're going to talk to him about that on PIX and Politics. So join me for that conversation. In the meantime, we've been paying a lot of attention about some of the congressional races, right, that are happening in our area, NY12 being one of them. And if you've been watching and keeping up, there are a lot of candidates, right, in that race. We make jokes about like, well, who else is going to announce that they're running? But let's talk to one of those contenders, Alan Pardee. He is running to be a congressman for New York 12. Great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's talk first and foremost about why you felt the need right now that this was the time to jump into a race. And especially when you look at it and there's so many candidates.
A lot of people in the race, and the more the merrier from my perspective. So I grew up here in New York City, born and raised not too far from where we're sitting, raised my family about a block from where I grew up. So New York can be a small town in a lot of ways, and I've had that experience. I've had a 30-year career in financial services, and through that built my own business, created lots of jobs here in New York, and helped other companies to grow their businesses and create thousands more jobs as well. The son of a Dominican immigrant. I'm the son of also a longtime New Yorker. And I see just so much going wrong in the city, specifically as it relates to the affordability crisis. And I want to tackle that head on.
So let's start with there then, right? With affordability and what your plan would be to, let's start with just kind of the cost of goods.
Sure.
And people just simply say they cannot afford to even go to the grocery store, right? So if you're a member of Congress, how you can bring that cost further down. And if it hasn't happened yet, why can you make a change?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of different factors that relate to the cost of everything that we're experiencing. The first thing we need to do, by the way, is repeal the big, bad, awful bill, because it is in part causing some of those costs. The tariffs as well that are layering on top of the prices that everyone is paying, that's increasing the cost of everything. We need to basically create more to be able to lower costs. One of the things that I definitely want to do is that everyone who is experiencing affordability crisis at some level is also experiencing a problem of keeping money in their own pockets, right? And so one of those solutions would be to lower taxes for those who are in the middle income and below. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, more.
Okay, lower taxes. That's interesting because Zoran Mamdani wants to raise taxes.
Well, raising taxes at the top end is a different topic.
Okay.
Let's talk about the people in the middle to the bottom.
Okay.
So I'll ask you a question. If you were to pick the middle family in the United States, median for those who like math, down to the bottom, so that bottom half of the United States, how much of the overall taxes that the IRS pulls in do you think that half of the population represents?
Oh, you tell me.
Well, most people, when I ask the question, come up with a number like 50%, 60%, 70%. The actual number is 3. So 3%. So half of the country is responsible for 3% of the taxes paid. Why not cut that in half tomorrow? Cut that in half tomorrow.
Because it's insignificant?
From the overall pull that the Treasury takes in, it's insignificant.
Okay.
So, and that doesn't even include the corporate taxes.
Okay.
So families are producing 3%, cut it to 1.5%. Suddenly, everyone in that bottom half has more money to keep the roof over their heads, put food on the table, be able to pay for their medical bills, be able to pay for their children's expenses and education, take care of their elderly and their family. Suddenly, everyone gets a raise. If you want to tackle affordability, start with not taking money from people and give them more take-home pay.
Yeah, that's putting more money in people's pockets, but it's not affecting the cost of the goods.
Well, fair enough. And that's where the cutting of the tariffs will come in as a path to lowering the cost of everything. Yes.
And so on the flip side, though, you know, do you believe, because that money has to kind of be made up somewhere then?
Yes.
Should the wealthier be taxed?
So there's several components on where do you find the money, but I'll get to the specifics of your question in a second. First is, let's look at the immigrant population that wants to come here, right? We have a whole lot of people in this country who are taxpayers, who are immigrants, whether documented or undocumented. Rather than chase immigrants around and beating them on the street and all the rest that we're seeing with the deportations, we should be encouraging, attracting more hardworking immigrants, turn them into the taxpayers that they want to be. And through that, and I've done a lot of modeling on this, you can pay for that 1.5% simply by issuing more green cards and creating a path to citizenship for the people who want to be here, plus the work visas and H-1B visas. That revenue stream on its own could easily pay for the 1.5%. But to your point, do we raise taxes? Why is it that Donald Trump and others who are in the billionaire class get to pay zero? Right? Jeff Bezos, you can name a whole list of people. The fact that Mitt Romney and Warren Buffett want to have their taxes raised tells you that there's something that we're doing wrong as it relates to the laws in this country. So we need to go after those who are evading tax, not even evading it, legally avoiding tax because the laws are crafted for them to dodge the system.
Yeah.
So let's raise their taxes. Absolutely.
Okay. So you support the local plan for Zohran Mamdani to raise the tax on the wealthy and the corporate tax rate?
I would do it differently than he is proposing, but I do think that we need to increase the taxes that are drawn from the wealthy part of this population as described.
When you look at your race as a whole, there's a lot of people that are in the race. How do you break through the noise? And what separates you apart from your opponents? Because you all are going to say the same thing, right? That you have to battle Donald Trump and fight Donald Trump and a lot of the policies. So how are you going to break through?
That's a great question. So there are a lot of people in the race, and we are going to be saying some similar things. And I think everybody's going to say we got to fix the affordability crisis at some level. And most of us are going to be talking about immigration in positive ways. I get it. And we need to defend ourselves against Donald Trump. If you look at what I've done in life, I've come with a whole lot of different experience. I'm the only one in this race who can say they built a business, happens to have been a global business that's created thousands of jobs here in New York, either directly or indirectly. It was my own company, which was smaller, and that which I helped with others building theirs. So I know what it is to be able to do the math of helping keep a business afloat, which effectively is also how do you do the math to keep a government afloat.
Yeah.
So that's a different skill set than anyone else in this race has. I have another feature, which is that I'm the only Latino in the race. And so no one else can speak in Spanish to the people who are in this race, in this district. And that's about 10% of the district. I grew up as the son of a Dominican immigrant. I know what the immigrant experience looks like. I lived it through my mom. And I see it, of course, in the streets and the stores and different places one goes in Manhattan. And so there's a different connectivity that I'll have.
Yeah. Let's talk about immigration right now. And that brings us to the topic of ICE right now and what's playing out around the country. First, before we get into the conversation, should ICE exist or should it be abolished?
It should absolutely be abolished. So let me say, as the only Latino in the race, we need to abolish ICE tomorrow. We need to impeach Kristi Noem. We need to, as I mentioned, create a path to citizenship and green cards for those here. We need to attract more hardworking immigrants, and we need to call the Trump administration to account for their lawless action. We've just seen people get assassinated by ICE. Renee Good and Alex Petrie would be alive today if we didn't have ICE. And there are dozens more who have perished over the course of this country.
Would you have voted for the funding bill that just kind of was in talks about partially shutting down the government, involved funding for Department of Homeland Security, and some Democrats like Laura Gillen, Tom Suozzi are in a bit of hot water right now for voting for it. How would you have voted?
Unfortunately, they deserve to be in the hot water they put themselves out. So no, I am in favor of abolishing ICE literally tomorrow.
You would have voted no on that.
I would have voted to defund ICE. Yes,
but that wasn't the. But
no,
I was for.
I would be. So I would be voting on the other side of those who left ICE untouched.
This is and this is a good conversation to have, right? Because this is kind of where the conversation gets murky for some folks. It was, do you fund Department of Homeland Security with components of ICE being in that? Which is why Tom Suozzi and Lauren Gillen said they voted yes, and then said, okay, maybe we shouldn't have, because some of that money goes to ICE. How would you have voted on that specific package?
No. So I would have allowed there to be more of a shutdown on this topic than we saw. So, yes, I'm in favor of disbanding ICE. Look, ICE
Yeah.
has only existed for the length of time that we created this name.
Right.
It used to be the INS before that.
Yeah.
It used to be other things before that. If we were sitting in other countries post-World War II, we wouldn't be figuring out how to adjust slightly some of the bands of bad people that we had on the ground in Germany. Or we would be taking it apart and calling it something new by creating something different. And we do need to have a secure border, to be sure. But this army that Trump has raised for himself is not in keeping with the Constitution of the United States of America, and is not in keeping with law and order.
How do you describe yourself within the Democratic Party? You know, there's so many talks now about labels and moderate, progressive, democratic, socialist. Where do you fall on the Democratic spectrum? And how do you see your voters kind of falling in line?
It's a great question. So I come from the world of business, so no one's going to confuse me as a socialist in terms of where I come from. But if you look at the policies that I'm in favor of, you will see progressive spirit behind them. So probably a mix of centrist and progressive in the context of how I fit. But no, I'm not a DSA style Democrat.
Do you, if you were to win, would you think that Hakeem Jeffries would be the right person to be the speaker?
That's a great question. So look, I like Hakeem Jeffries. I liked better the Hakeem Jeffries that we saw a few years ago. What we see today, I feel like he and many Democrats need to find the spine that we all have and stand up strong and defend that which we have in front of us. So if it comes to my voting for Hakeem Jeffries, when that vote comes, if he can turn himself back into the Hakeem Jeffries that I've seen in the past, I'll gladly be supporting him. I've got some questions in the here and now. Or
is it time for somebody new?
And it may be.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to take over for somebody who was a giant in the world of the Upper East Side politics, right? And so
West Side.
Upper West Side, yes, excuse me. I know there was a whole thing with the redistricting and what became what district and whatever. But you know, and that's, you're an outsider,
I am.
kind of looking inward now. Is that where you think that the party should go?
So I certainly think from my own perspective, in terms of what I'm trying to do, the party does need fresh faces, new ideas, new perspectives. You know, the tired ideas that we've had in the past haven't fixed the affordability crisis. Right? We've had Democrats in power in a lot of different places over the course of time, and we still have the messes that we see in front of us. So I'm here to provide new ideas, a new frame of reference coming from business life, as well as importantly from my time as a spokesperson and board member, as well as active volunteer for New York Common Pantry. I'm a part of an army of people who help feed New Yorkers. 11.7 million meals in the last fiscal year to 730,000 individuals who can come to New York Common Pantry. That's across all 5 boroughs. Its headquarters is right north of the district at 109th between Madison and Fifth. And there's a fleet of trucks that come from the free facilities we have in the Bronx that go all over the city and partner with others. The fact that 1 in 3 New Yorkers went to a food pantry in the last 3 years, 1 in 5 are reliant upon SNAP to put food on the table for their families. Also an abomination. It's a policy failure, but it's also a societal failure that we can't get people to have just the basics for decent life.
Yeah. Let me end on this question for you, which is the affordability crisis, affordable housing, which I didn't talk about your plan, but all of these things have been talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
And so why should someone looking at this race in particular say, well, Alan's the guy who's actually going to do it?
Sure. So unlike others in the race, I've actually built businesses, funded operations, helped others build their businesses, and fund quite a lot to create change across the economy. So I actually know how to work together with people and get things done. And so having somebody who actually knows how to roll up their sleeves and achieve outcomes is what this city needs. It's what this country needs. And so I'm here to represent those in New York 12 to get things done.
All right, Alan, appreciate you coming on. It's going to be a long way till the finish line, but we'll talk to you throughout the race, okay?
Tremendous.
Good to see you. And everybody, don't forget, we got James Solomon coming on PIX on Politics. We also have the new DOT Commissioner, Mike Flynn. He's going to be joining us on PIX on Politics too to talk about some of his plans. And then looking ahead to next week, we're talking to, and this is a bit of a history maker, right? With the new Department of Corrections Commissioner being the first formerly incarcerated person who is now a commissioner of the Department of Corrections. We're going to talk to him next week as well. So stay tuned for all of that. But in the meantime, I'll see you back here tomorrow.